Hi there, welcome to another Music Ally Focus with me, Music Ally's editor, Joe Sparrow. And in this episode, we're joined by two up-and-coming managers who are part of the UK's Music Managers Forum, aka the MMF's Accelerator program. We want to know what opportunities talented young managers are seeing out there and how they're going to use them to take their nascent stars onto success. Now, what's this Focus podcast? Well, Music Ally, as you know, provides an analysis-rich and contextual guide to the music business. And each of these Focus episodes analyzes one meaningful music business story at a time. It's also going to be a quick podcast. It should take about the same amount of time as Irish butcher Barry John Crow could hypothetically make 1,950 sausages. Barry made 78 in 1 minute, in one frantic minute, I imagine, in 2017. Now, the saying goes that you don't want to know how the sausage is made. But here on Music Ally Focus, we think the opposite. And in this episode, we've invited two bright emerging managers, namely Cecile Dreyer and Pascal Balletti, to talk about the fresh approaches that they're using, specifically with regards to direct-to-fan strategies, NFTs, and Web3 technology, and TikTok. All three of which are of interest to any managers, labels, or artist team members that are listening, and we'll find out how they can take advantage of it. The MMF's Accelerator program is a grants and training initiative which runs every year and aims to boost the careers of young managers in the UK through professional development, and of which Music Ally is a partner on that part. Fun fact, Phoebe Gold, who's the co-manager of breakthrough artist Pink Pantheress, was a previous Accelerator participant. All right, let's go and talk to both Cecile and Pascal. We're very happy to be joined by two participants in the MMF's Accelerator program. That's Cecile Dreyer and Pascal Balletti. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Good to have you here. Now, I want to talk about your work experiences and the fresh approaches that you're using as talented young professionals by focusing on a few different areas of interest that all managers listening or anyone working in the music industry can take advantage of, and that is direct-to-fan, NFTs, and Web3 technology and TikTok. We'll talk about that in a minute, but first, can I ask you both to introduce yourselves, please, and explain how you came to be involved in the Accelerator program, and one extra bonus bit, if you could pick one piece of music to take with you to somewhere where you could only have one piece of music, what would it be?
I'm Cecile and I live in London and I manage my own roster of artists, currently working with 5 very different ones, 2 in LA, 2 in London and 1 in Copenhagen. I'm Danish myself, so it's interesting for me to start focusing on the Danish market as well. About one piece of music, that would be the one piece of music I would listen to for the rest of my life. Is that it? Wow.
Yes.
Well, I guess I could say the recent release from one of the artists I work with, Ike October. He's a classical pianist. He just released a piece called "What Are You So Afraid Of?" I think I'll choose that one.
Very on brand. I approve of that. And how did you come about to be working in the MMF Accelerator?
Right. So previously, I was running my company as a music tech startup. And then during the pandemic, a lot of the artists that I work with via the platform sort of started to request that I would be more involved and become more of a manager type person for them. And I immediately jumped on that.
Okay. Fantastic. And Pascal, how about you?
Hi, my name is Pascal. I work with 2 clients. I have an artist called Annie, who's a singer and rapper from London. And I work with a young up-and-coming producer called Ty Green. And I guess, one piece of music that I would probably take with me. I'm a massive fan of Kate Trinada, so probably one of his songs.
And how did you end up working with the MMF Accelerator program?
I guess just loads of people told me about it. I heard about the MMF and thought I would apply. I didn't really think I was going to get it because I'd only been managing for 3 years, so kind of shocked that they gave it to me, but here we are.
You seem like the ideal candidate, so that's good. Okay, now we're going to talk to you both about these 3 topics which we've picked out, which are sort of hot button topics. The first one is direct to fan. Now, in the last few years, partly because of the pandemic, but partly as well because of changing conditions with technology and in the music industry, it's one of those approaches that artists and teams are increasingly interested in. So let's start with you, Cecile, again. Why is this becoming more, first of all, desirable and possible as an approach for artists and their teams?
Well, I think, first of all, it's just interesting for an artist to be able to have a more direct relationship with someone who loves their music and loves them as a brand. And I think now it's sort of clear that none of the platforms can really help you do that. Like Instagram, for example, changing their algorithms weekly. So I think that's one. But yeah, of course, since the pandemic, it's become important for everyone to have more of a direct revenue stream where you get the money immediately and you don't have to really share the profits with a million middlemen.
And so why now do you think that's happening? Because, of course, this has always been the case, right? Yeah. Instagram has always been a sort of in-between platform that can change at a whim, right? So why is it now that it's a thing that we're hearing it all the time from all scales of artists, from big to small, saying, "Oh, we're really focusing on direct to fan right now." It's for the reasons you've said. Why is now the time that it's happening?
I guess maybe it was first mostly through Bandcamp and the more traditional merch part of your business that you were focusing on. But I think now, because everything is so readily available everywhere, offering very special access, special services and products to fans are just so much more interesting. And it's become clear that a lot of music fans who used to spend whatever $100 a month on music now can only spend 10 on their streaming subscription. And there's just a big gap there that needs to be filled out with some new offerings. So I think that's become very clear and very easy to really fill that.
Pascal, well, you're working with two artists, and I presume that the kind of artists who, like all artists, who want to maintain a really direct relationship with their fans and nurture that connection. So when you talk to them, what do you think? What do they get out of it? What do they enjoy about that direct connection? And what sort of work have you done in that space?
I think it's really important to have a direct connection with your fans and your followers, just because I think, like you've seen with the pandemic, like anything can happen at any point. Instagram could stop from working tomorrow, or you know what I mean? With these different kind of vessels, they're not here forever and anything can happen. And I think over the last 2-3 years, we've seen that in our industry. I think it's always really nice being a fan of music myself. When you have that direct contact with an artist, it does make a fan feel more special. And I think being able to kind of interact with fans on that level is really important. I think recently we did like a movie screening where we invited a bunch of Annie's fans down to kind of hang out with her and watch the screening of her documentary that we had worked on. And it was a really useful exercise because through that we kind of were collecting emails and kind of feeding back into the mailing list. And I think it just helped us really build an idea of who are the fans that really care about Annie, you know what I mean? And kind of trying to figure out their profile.
It sounds obvious to say that fans want a direct relationship with an artist, right? But that's not always been the case in terms of it being available. If you look forward a bit, what are fans getting out of it now? And what are they really getting out of that direct connection?
I think what we want to offer fans that kind of are directly in contact with Annie is just that extra level of kind of access to see what's happening. I think there are some fans that are happy to just consume music and that be it. But then there are other fans that want to kind of dig deeper and kind of get to know the artist a bit more and feel part of something. I think it's really important for fans these days to feel part of something. The ones that do want to feel part of something, it's important that there is that kind of ability to feel more involved with what the artist's doing. So I think...
Yeah, I completely agree. I think for us, we've really tried to look at the fans as co-creators of a lot of the projects, just to get them involved from day one and really have them buy into it. And once it's then released to the public, they have a stake in it in some way. And we feel like they can help us promote it and really go through the whole cycle with us. It's a much more effective way all the way through.
Over time, I think with obviously social media coming into play, before, like 20 years ago, artists could have an element of mystery about them. And I think that was kind of almost like a selling point. You didn't really know much about the music industry, whereas now, or as much of an insight into it. Whereas now with social media, I feel like people are constantly want more content and want to be kind of more engaged in what's happening, whether it be sports teams kind of now doing documentaries showing what happens behind the scenes, or obviously in the music industry, similar things as well. I think just people want to kind of have more access to kind of what's happening.
these themes of identity, community, and togetherness are happening across society, right? So this is something which is going to continue, at least in the medium term, right? So as you look ahead, from a sort of business perspective then, as a manager, what benefits do you see in the medium to long term of building an artist's career with this very involved direct-to-fan relationship?
Well, as I was saying before, we've been trying to look at our fans as co-creators for 2 specific projects at the moment for a tour, and also for a new album project. So, for example, for the album project, what we've been doing is we've been trying to offer fans sort of different engagement opportunities where they can come in and vote on stuff. They can also collaborate, because this specific fan base is full of up-and-coming producers. And as they get involved in these creative tasks, we reward them with different tokens that will give them access to buy stuff. So first of all, okay, that's a way for them to get exclusive access that I think is really important, and something that you can make a higher margin on. But then as we get further into the project, what we're really hoping is that these fans who've already contributed so much and who already understand the story of the project and what we're trying to do with the new album, hopefully they will become sort of our street team. So we're trying to organize another reward scheme that will encourage them to continue to build this project with us as it's released. And I think having your close fans on your team in that way, without taking advantage of them, but actually giving them the right access and to experiences and products, that kind of thing, is really a great experience for both the artist and the fan.
What do you see the benefits as, Pascal?
I think obviously what is really nice about direct to fan is you can build a more genuine relationship between an artist and their fans, rather than it being about you selling your music. It can be about giving them something, kind of what Cecile was saying. It can be more collaborative. I feel like often on like other platforms, it is just a bit more transactional. Whereas I think when you're able to kind of communicate with the fans directly, you can build a more genuine relationship. That's what I think is the biggest strength. And then kind of also help the fans become kind of general fans that are kind of just want to listen to the music, and kind of making them more fans of the person. Because I think most people start as you're a fan of the music, but then also if you become a fan of the person, the artist, you're kind of even more bought in. And I think, that's one of the...
And if I can just add to that, because I think once you then start to develop that direct relationship, and one of the areas or one of the places we've focused on that is through an artist's Discord, for example. And once you get people in there, it gets so much easier to really get to know each other. And then it becomes almost obvious what sort of new products and services and merch you can offer and create. So that sort of that product development phase becomes really easy, and you can almost do it in collaboration with the fans again. In this case, we recently launched. So again, on the Discord, there was a lot of up and coming producers, and then we launched a specific page on the artist's site that sold stems and samples and demos that weren't available to anyone else, but specific products that these producers then love to play around with, and then again share within the Discord what they had come up with.
Okay, and just to jump in here, if you're finding this useful and you'd like more of this in-depth news and trusted analysis waiting for you in your inbox every morning, as well as access to all of our industry-leading reports, head on over to musically.com/subscribe. And you, yes, you may be eligible for a free Music Ally subscription via our corporate and sponsored subscriptions. So if you work for a DSP, a major label, an indie label, or if you're an artist manager, an employee of a CMO or a publisher, you can check to see if it's available for you. It's musically.com/subscription-options. There's a link below the podcast to check out as well. Okay, let's go back to the interview. Cecile, you mentioned a minute ago tokens. I presume you're talking the non-fungible kind of token. NFTs and Web3, the attention around that through the music industry. We've gone through the full hype cycle and we're sort of reaching an area now where people are starting to understand the actual use cases of NFTs and Web3 technology in the future. You've mentioned one there, which is one of them, I think the most immediate ones that we'll see, which is tokenization as sort of membership, if you like, for maybe for fan clubs or for a membership of a Discord or for interaction or something like that, identification of fans. What do artists, say about NFTs? This is something where artists have been sort of supposedly been empowered, but I've also spoken to a lot of artists who think that they've been taken advantage of. So what do artists say to you about their sort of what they want to do involving NFTs, and what do fans actually want?
Yeah, I think initially with this whole wave coming over us, I think everybody in this industry is just naturally interested in getting involved and want to experiment with it and test it. And I think most of the artists that I work with were mostly worried about all the negative connotations that really quickly was associated with NFTs and that whole hype cycle. So we really started out really cautiously, and we wanted to see what does the fan think. We really don't want to backlash and try and we don't want them to think that it's just a money grab in that way. And we really believed in the tools behind it. So we started out off slow with launching a social token. We built a partnership with a company called Roll. And we felt that was a really good first step because it's really bridging the Web 2 to Web 3. And it allows us to introduce some of the functionality that it really is behind it. It's not about an NFT and how much it's worth. It's more about what new things this actually allows us to do. So it doesn't really put on us to explain, the technology in our car. It's more about, you can now drive from A to B really faster and better and more enjoyable. And so I think that has allowed us to have that conversation first with our fans. And then hopefully, that will build, but that's where we are still. Yeah.
And what about you, Pascal? I mean, again, from the perspective of talking to both artists and fans, what do both sides want to get out of NFT technology, Web3 technology?
I mean, when we kind of spoke about it and approached the conversation, I think there was a lot of unknown and I think fear of being taken advantage of from our side as well. I think whenever there's new technology, it's very easy for the ones that have the knowledge of the new technology to kind of take advantage of maybe people that don't know as much and things like that. And I think our conversations were more around selling NFTs, for example, of artwork or things like that. And if I'm being honest with you, I think we kind of, what Cecile was saying as well, we didn't want to kind of come across as, we didn't want it to come across as like a money grab. And I think especially the kind of artist that Annie is, and the things that she talks about in her music, suddenly I feel like an NFT would have felt a bit out of place. And I think it's also down to how interested the artist is as well, because I think there's no interest on that side than explaining to an artist what an NFT is and how it works and how they can make money from it when they don't care or don't want to kind of look into that side of things. Isn't necessary. And I think some artists want to just be artists and make music, and all these other things like are great opportunities that some people jump at and other people are just here to make music. And I think as a manager as well, you've kind of got to know when to push and when to kind of not. And I think because the technology is so new, because I don't have the most expertise, the last thing I want to do is say to Annie, let's do X, Y, Z. And then in 6 months' time, find out that we really got ripped off. You know what I mean? So I think where there's no want from the artist, there's no need to force things. Like whenever there's a new technology that comes out, just because it's the new technology doesn't mean every single artist needs to be using it. It's like if your artist naturally connects to it, because then it feels forced. And I think fans will notice that something's forced. So it's like, from my perspective, I'm never going to force anything upon any of my clients. Like if this is something that naturally you feel is a good move, then great, we'll explore it. But I'm not going to kind of be like pushing it. So, yeah.
I think from the fans' perspective, what we can see as well is that we don't necessarily have a lot of fans who are interested in having digital collectibles. For the artists we've done this with, it's more about using this to get access and holding these tokens to show that you're sort of in this leaderboard. So you get sort of attention from the artist. It's not so much about these collectibles.
Yeah, it's flexing your position in the
in real
hierarchy,
time.
isn't it? A lot of it. Yeah, and of course that's an interesting point, which connects to what you were first saying, which is you can burn the social capital, you can burn the relationship with your fans if you get that wrong, and it feels like a money grab. Do you think that, as we're still in very early days of Web3 technologies and the way that they touch music, do you think that in a few years these kind of approaches, like you tokenize membership to access this, to get enhanced access to an artist, do you think that's going to be very normal in terms of a part of the suite of marketing and management tools that you use?
Yeah, I think so. I think that specifically is what the Web3 tools make so easy for us to manage. So I think that's really what is, that is the great thing about Web3 tools, I think, right now. It's also great that, you've been able to make a lot of money with it, but I think this is really what's really interesting.
Now, TikTok is a really firmly established component of music industry marketing and often a big part of managers strategizing. The size and appeal of TikTok is undeniable. It is seen as a platform that can make hits. It can generate virality and make success. Now, that's true to an extent. It's also debatable. So from your personal perspectives and your day-to-day experience, how central is TikTok in your thinking, in your management approach? And if it is, in what ways? Because it can be used in so many different ways.
I was going to say at the start, obviously, when I got into management, it wasn't really something that we had to consider, but over time, it's just something that you can't ignore. And I guess it's also very artist specific. Some artists love the platform and want to go and post and share, and others look at it and they don't really know what to do. And I think a lot of that also depends on what generation the artist is from. If you're working with maybe an older artist or a younger artist, some artists have grown up with TikTok, others it's like a new thing that's quite alien. One thing that I found worked really well for me and Annie is when using TikTok, to use it collaboratively with the platform. And I think so because TikTok are a relatively newer platform compared to like Instagram, Facebook, etc. They really want to work with artists and creators to kind of push it along further. And I always found more success instead of getting any or Ty Green, the producer that I work with, to kind of go and make TikToks. What I always found was better was to connect directly with TikTok and to say, what opportunities do you guys have coming up? Is there something that you guys are kind of planning and that we can kind of get involved in? And that way it does take a lot of the creative burden from the artist if they are stuck, which is what I've found with my artist isn't something that they naturally gravitate towards. But like we said, it's not something you can just ignore. So I definitely found success. For example, when Annie played Glastonbury, TikTok were doing an activation where they had a hashtag called #Glastonbury. And what we arranged is for some of their kind of creators to come down, meet Annie, and with Annie, they would create TikToks. So instead of placing all the burden on the artist, which I think, unless the artist is a natural, is really hard to kind of put on them. And you see it so much on social media, artists complaining. I think it's how you approach it. If you approach it in a more collaborative way, like, okay, TikTok would like to work with you. What do you have coming up? Obviously, it's Black History Month in October, and they're going to be doing some stuff around that. And he's got a song called Peng Black Girls. It makes sense to do something there, but I'm not the kind of person that's going to push my artists to, we need another TikTok or anything like that. If you do them naturally, great. But if you don't, like, let's find a way to still incorporate it into a release plan, but without it taking too much brain time and energy.
Great. Thanks, Pascal. And Cecile, what about you? First of all, do you find it just inescapable in your life as a manager? And I'm really interested in that idea of how you sort of bring artists round to finding their route into using it, because it's a highly creative platform, isn't it?
Yeah, and for me, I have the first steps into the TikTok world has, been more naturally taken by the artists themselves, and then we just build from there. For one artist, it's much more a collaboration with the label, where they're actually helping him produce and film him play the piano. And for another of the artists who's probably the most successful on TikTok, I think it's similar to what Pascal is saying. She's releasing a lot of features. She's featured on a lot of tracks on right now, both her own tracks, and she has guests on coming in as well. And I think whenever that happens and they can collaborate on a TikTok challenge or something, makes it much more organic, much more fun to create and to watch. So I think that approach has always been the most fun and the most successful.
I mean, we're talking again here about the first of all, direct-to-fan connectivity. This makes the whole podcast sound very organised. I promise that it's all come together by accident like this. But we're talking about fan and artist connectivity, but we're also talking about this concept of how the fan is. We used to have this sort of one-way relationship, if you like, where artists make music, it's then delivered to fans who consume the music. But actually now we're seeing fans become creators themselves through apps like TikTok, which enable very fast, inventive creativity. And a component of that is the artist's music. So is that something that you think will just continue to grow in terms of sort of integration with what your artists are doing? They will keep seeking out new collaborative ways with fans.
I think it depends on the artist as well, and how much they want to be that person. Like some I've met really want to meet their fans and really want to spend time with their fans, and other artists actually want to be a bit more reserved. And I think, unfortunately, in the era of social media now, I think it favors a lot more the artists that want to be more collaborative and more involved with their fans naturally. But I think now that the tools are there, I can't really see it stopping. You know what I mean? What better kind of being able to write a verse to your favorite artist song, or to kind of be able to collaborate on lyrics or whatever it is, you know what I mean? I can't really see it stopping.
We're trying to make a specific funnel where, well, this is where you actually get the access, and it's in this space where we feel it's valuable for us to have the fans live. And then we choose to collaborate more, a bit differently, I think, with the fans in there.
Yeah. As you look forward, what excites you as managers in terms of the opportunities that are out there that you'll be able to take advantage of in a progressive way to enable the success of your artists?
With all these crazy new technologies coming out, like, the options are limitless to some extent, you know what I mean? But I think it's always, like, I know I've been saying this all the time, but it's just down to what the artist really wants to do, because you can present all these really exciting ideas to them of ways to kind of collaborate or ways to get in direct contact with the fans. But if it's not something that excites them or something that they would do naturally, I feel like, again, the worst thing is meeting your favorite artist and being a bit disappointed because they're not who or what you thought they were. So I think there's also that side of things to consider. Like, I'm really excited about all the tools and being able to kind of work in different ways. But I also think the most important thing is just the artist and what actually are they comfortable doing and what. So as far as what excites me, it might be a bit of a cop-out, but what I say to any is whatever excites you excites me, because if this is something that you're going to do and you're going to put your all into it, then that is something that I want to pursue. You know what I mean? We could have the craziest plan, but if it's something that the artist isn't bought into, to me, it doesn't really matter as well, because I think when you look at it big picture as well, if they're not bought into it, they're not really going to enjoy it. And suddenly this whole releasing process, which is meant to be quite fun, and obviously artists have to release a lot of music to kind of stay on top of things these days. If it becomes a drag, like, naturally the person isn't going to want to do it as much. So for me, rather than because there's so many things that you can do now, I just really focus on what the artist wants to do and what they feel is a true representation of them, rather than anything else. That's the most important thing. And that's what.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Pascal. Okay, Cecile, last word for you on this one then.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it has to be artist-led. They have to be in the driver's seat. Otherwise, it's not going to be fun and it's not going to last very long. But I think for us, as well as, just staying in the lane of really thinking of the fans as co-creators, and one of the artists that I work with, she loves being collaborative in that way with the fans. So now we're at stage one. We've rolled out these tokens that fans are now earning, and they're getting and that's getting them access to specific things. And I think long term, what the dream is that we can start adding a specific monetary value to those tokens. And over time, that community we have in Discord right now can evolve into a DAO or some type of organization where we can fund a lot of the projects ourselves, and the fans are involved in voting on these projects, executing these projects, and ultimately we're all funding it together and have some sort of sharing economy. Not sure exactly how that looks like yet, but I'm really excited to figure out how that could work.
Exciting times when you extend collaboration into those kind of realms. It starts to become a form of independence as well, doesn't it? Which is exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you both ever so much. I'll put some links to the two of you and your artists beneath the podcast, so people listening can go and check you out and check your artists out. Perhaps more importantly. So, Cécile, Pascal, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks so much, Joe.
And there we go. So if you found that useful, please share this podcast on with someone else who you think will also get something out of it. And if you'd like to email me and give me your thoughts, it's joe@musically.com. That's joe@musically.com. Don't forget, we have a free weekly email called The Knowledge, which rounds up a bit of this and a bit of that, of the best analysis, news, marketing, insight, and skills from Music Ally. There's a link below the podcast, so sign up and impress your boss. And don't forget as well, you can check out to see if you are eligible for a free Music Ally subscription. That link is also beneath the podcast. So that's it from me, Joe Sparrow. Until next time, farewell.